So guys, the first four steps before any trade. Now, for me personally, these are the exact steps I take anytime I analyze any chart, whether it's on the higher time frame or on the lower time frame. And we're going to see exactly what we're going to get into. But I do keep this sort of four-step strategy just to make it simple for myself. Every single time I always take in these steps, just so when I get into any chart, I have that understanding that's the same every single time. And I really do want to make this as simple as possible for you. Um, you know, Whenever you do analyze any of your charts as well. Now, with all of this that's going to be coming up, this lesson acts only as a reminder for what we're going to look at. It really is the basics of all of our analysis. Now, pretty much is going to be a compilation of what you've been learning already in, all the content that's already existed. It's now just putting it together. So, first things first, before anything else, is always going to be fundamentals. And the reason why I say that is because fundamentals, it truly is the reason why the market moves in a certain direction. So, as long as we have that understanding, now we can get into any chart, thinking, yes, it's going to go in this certain direction. So, that's the direction we're going to be looking at. Then we're going to be looking at market structure. Now, what I would say is obviously fundamentals could be in an area of its own. And then these three would be considered as my technical analysis. The first most important thing would be market structure. Then afterwards, we get into liquidity, and then finally supply and demand areas, or order blocks. And of course, this influences our entries as well. Now, the first things first, fundamentals. So before you get into any chart, just understand that being part of the Diamond Capital Academy and mentorship, every single week you're going to be getting these fundamental breakdowns. I'm pretty sure the reason why most of you even joined is because we have that fundamental bias in our mind. Unlike many smart money concept groups, don't really look at it in too much detail. But with this, we need to be prepared weekly. And my advice to you would always be have a little read of the weekly breakdown. Just understand what's going to be coming up, what might be potentially very, very influential. And then with certain currency pairs for certain weeks, we know where the direction is going to be heading, many, many times throughout this whole year as well. Now it's officially been, a whole year that I've been sending out these fundamental breakdowns. Every week we have that idea of where the market could potentially be heading. Then, in terms of news events, this is also very important. So, of course, we do outline it here as well, but just make sure every single morning, just to check what we've got ahead. Just so you know, at certain times there might be increased volatility, so we have to be careful of that. Now, getting into technicals, market structure is always going to be first. So, starting on the higher time frames, this is perhaps the most key bit of technical analysis you're ever going to do. Because once you understand market structure fully, you can't really go wrong in terms of choosing a certain direction unless fundamentals is against you or something. But if you have a really good understanding of high time frame market structure, then from there we can pretty much decide our entries and everything like that. Of course, the market's fractal, so we're eventually going to be getting down into the lower time frames as well. Then liquidity. We've talked about this many, many times, but just to really break it down, the four main types of liquidity we do have: equal highs and equal low liquidity. So as in this example, we do have equal low liquidity at the bottom here. Trendline liquidity, that does appear quite often as well. Imbalances, that's something that we've already talked about in the course already, but we're going to be talking about it in much more depth, and it even influences our entry points as well. And then we've got buy side and sell side liquidity. That's pretty much just the highs and the lows of certain ranges. So for example, within this range right here, from the top to the bottom, at the top, we do have that buy side liquidity. So that's what we could aim for in the future. Another point about liquidity, whenever we get to certain areas of liquidity, be prepared for the market to react in certain ways around them. So for example, you take out equal lows, what do you expect to happen? If we hit an order block, then we could potentially reverse straight from that. So it acts as an inducement. These are the types of things we're going to be getting into more detail. Then lastly, we do have supply and demand areas. This supply and demand and order blocks pretty much is the same thing. There's no need to complicate it with the names and everything like that. This is pretty much going to influence our entries. So just a quick example that we've got right here, for example, you know, just thinking about liquidity point. So first of all, market structure. You know, we've broken market structure downwards. We've broken this primary low. We do have areas of liquidity to aim for. So we've got this trendline liquidity, imbalance below as well. And now pretty much all we're waiting on is a supply area to be hit for us to be selling. And that's exactly what happens over here. So yeah, once our chart is set up, we can then start looking for potential entry points. Many people describe these points of interest as supply and demand zones. Other people call it order blocks. It really is not a big issue. Just understand where you want to be buying and selling. Either way now, we're pretty much ready for these entry points. Now, all that's left to do is set your alerts, especially if you're trading on the higher time frame. We're going to be waiting for these areas, and then eventually we're going to be entering. And of course, we're going to be getting into more detail much later on in this part of the course. But guys, this was pretty much one of the first videos in this part. So I look forward to seeing you all in the next few videos. All right, take care.